Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Friday, April 11th, 2025. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free through the tireless efforts of Dr. Michael and Jeannie Rice on the website at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the two words that say Start Here in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of the book contains a narrative description and explanation of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 20 years now to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each and every one of us has been given. You can also download the actual worksheet process itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it as often as you'd like, and use it over and over again absolutely free. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process. And if you choose to listen to them, even repeatedly, they can serve as a powerful tutorial for you to help you get maximum benefit from these tools in the shortest amount of time possible. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness. And if you choose to do that before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet. It contains an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and it contains a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. We hope people do all of that soon and often, primarily because it tends to improve the quality of people's lives the more they actively apply these tools in their lives, and secondarily because it tends to prompt comments, questions, answers, and testimonials. And if you have any of those to share with us, we'd appreciate you doing so by giving us a call. You can call us through the Needle app. Download the Needle app at your app store. It's NEDL. And when you search for that, it'll be the AI tuner for live radio. Download the app, open it up, log in, answer a few questions, and you'll have the option to either type a comment or raise a hand to talk to us voice to voice. Alternatively, you can send me an email at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. and or you can email Jeannie at jeanie@whyagain.org. That's whyagain.org. And we greatly appreciate whenever anybody lets us know through an email or a comment on the app or a phone call through the app what your comments or questions are, because it makes it infinitely easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention we have with this work is to be of service, and that is just so much easier to do when we know how these things are landing for you. So please let us know, whether it's as we're reading a book with commentary or we're answering questions about any of the various tools that Michael and Jeannie offer. The more feedback we get from you about how this is landing for you or whether or not it's making sense, the easier it is for us to live into our intention to be of service. In the past couple days, I've been bouncing back and forth between the two books. The book titled A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg, and the other book by Lisa Feldman Barrett about how emotions are made. And As always, we're looking for feedback. What's working most for you, etc., etc. Yesterday, near the end of the show, we'd gotten into the second section of the book, A Walk in the Physical. And that section is a grouping of the 166 short essays, and they've been grouped by theme. And I was reading some of those grouping titles, those theme titles, and asked if anybody had a request to read them. So somebody said, yeah, let's talk about the present moment as the point of power. And so we read the first essay, which is the 14th essay of the 166. It's titled, You Have the Power. And we read that, and the last paragraph of that essay says, if you have relinquished your power in your mind, it's always okay to take it back. Become familiar with how you're perceiving your experience. Choose to focus on the positive, even as you fully acknowledge and allow what you might have identified with as negative. Your awareness is at the root of it all. Change the momentum of your experience by intentionally choosing what you focus on and how you decide to interpret what happens in your life. You, as consciousness, have that very real power. It's time to remember that you do. So that's the first essay in that grouping. The second essay in that grouping is titled, Healing a World of Broken Systems. And Christian writes, we live in a world of imperfect human systems. The political systems, economic systems, legal systems, and nationalist systems all end up failing countless individuals in myriad ways. One fundamental reason for this series of failed systems is that our systems are primarily driven by self-interest rather than love. Most human systems are built to protect oneself or one's group at the expense of other individuals or other groups. Capitalism is a clear example of this. It's a system that capitalizes on selfish motivation to produce economic output. It generates tremendous activity, but the motivation of the activity is often selfish rather than loving. As an example, I've heard it said that if the United States government was simply able to collect all of the taxes that everyone owes, especially the top 1% income earners, this is not making new taxes on them, just collecting the taxes that they legally should be paying, just the top 1%. It would be enough to elevate everybody above the poverty line. But that doesn't happen because people with lots of money want to keep their money and they want more. So the motivation for that system is selfish rather than loving. Christian goes on and writes, love supports the optimal way that individuals can interact and support one another. Selfishness does not. Because the fundamental motivation is not optimal, the human systems themselves can never function in optimal support of the experience of their participants. The systems themselves are not the problem. The quality of our intent is the problem. The answer to the world's problems is not a new leader, new laws, or even a new financial system. The answer is love. Love means full individual accountability and commitment to act with loving intent. He writes in parentheses, intent that supports others over the self, close parentheses, and do that in all things, even and especially in how one deals with one's own weaknesses, fears, and needs. While universal application of loving intent would heal the world, it is also proven to be the very hardest thing for us to do. In fact, as a species, we have a pretty long and dark history of how we have neglected one another. We've neglected the animals on our planet and the planet itself. However, learning how to actually embody loving intent in such a constraining environment is not something that's easily mastered. It's not easily mastered by any given individual, let alone a few billion of us. Instead, the mastery of selfless, loving intent is not something that typically can be experientially learned, even in several lifetimes. Fortunately, all of us are beyond time, and we've been graciously given all the time in the world to really grow up and get it right. It's important to recognize that our opportunity to grow up is happening right now. Our power to change the world is right now. And we can do that by actively working on the quality of our intent towards being more loving with whomever is around us, and by confronting our own fear and our own ego today, in this very moment. Every one of us needs to own the responsibility. Every one of us can take a hard look at where we've been selfish and can strive to put others above ourselves. That step is a step toward healing the entire world. You are an incredibly important piece of the solution. You do have the power to advance the entire world one step closer to love by the choices you make. So the next time you turn around on the news, and you turn on the news, and you see something challenging happening in the world, instead of worrying about it, look to yourself to take just one step towards grace and love. The power to heal the world exists through your love right now. And this is why the Course in Miracles says so often, it's a simple choice between fear and love. And, the experience of a miracle is simply a situation in which a person chooses love over fear. So we're reading the essays, the 4 essays, under the category, The Present Moment is the Point of Power. And the 3rd essay is titled, The Power of the Present Moment. And Christian writes, the present moment is all there ever is. The now exists beyond the mind. It is not an idea of the mind. The now is your alert presence in the current moment, the silent witness that beholds and experiences all of the form. And again, here he puts in parentheses, form includes all of the thoughts, all of the feelings, all of the objects, and all of the contexts that you can conceptualize. Close parentheses. The ideas of the mind can be temporarily experienced in the now, and yet the now is not those ideas. The now supersedes all ideas. You do not need to live your life lost in the dream that is the ideas of the mind, in thoughts about the future or about the past. You do not need to live there. You do not need to surrender yourself to anxieties about the past or the future. They too can only exist as they are recalled into the present moment. Your power is always in the now. It does not exist in the past or in the future. It is always right now. While you may have established great momentum in your life that may seem to bind you into a given circumstance or an idea set, you're not ever completely bound to the cumulative impacts of your past, because you always have the power in the now, right now, to change your momentum toward the direction that you choose. Now, I'm going to interrupt in a sidebar. I can't help myself. The Way of Mastery has a lesson 8, and it talks about, in both lesson 8 and lesson 9, it talks extensively about this very same thing. Lesson 8, in fact, is titled Dropping Pebbles into the Pool of Awareness. And it has headings such as, You are not a victim of the world you see. So, as you choose a thought and you pour your mind energy into it, that's a creative act. And very much like dropping a pebble into a still clear pool, it creates ripples. And those ripples emanate out from the thought that you're choosing and extends out into the energetic field. Some would call it the quantum soup. And then it bounces off of what's out there and what manifests and comes back to you. And you will feel the impacts of the choices of those thoughts that you've poured your mind energy into. And some people choose to use that to say, oh, I'm doomed because I've spent 20 or 30 years in anxiety or depression. And in lesson 8 and lesson 9 in The Way of Mastery, they say so clearly, you're never a victim of the world you see. You're never even a victim of the thoughts that you've chosen and the energies that you've sent rippling out from you, which will come back to you. Because in each new present moment, you have the ability to choose how you will interpret and respond to those energies as they come rippling back to you. And if, I don't want to get too far afield, but if you get into The Way of Mastery, if you want to see the synchronicity here between what Christian Sundberg has been taught by his meditations and his masters and what's in The Way of Mastery, it's identical to my eye and ear. Your power is always in the now, Christian says, back to his book. It does not exist in the past or the future. It's always right now. You might have established great momentum in your life, and yet it never binds you completely because you always have the power in this now moment, right now, to change your momentum toward the direction that you choose. That direction can always be toward brighter expectations of the future, new personal beliefs, greater awareness of your personal power and freedom, greater acceptance of the love that exists for you, increased prioritization of serving others over self, or any other direction that you so choose. For as your consciousness moves in the present moment, so will your body and even your reality itself also move. Even if the effects may not always be immediately apparent, please make no mistake that how you choose to use the present moment is always causing change. That which happens in consciousness space, in the now, always has an effect, even if you cannot see it or understand it. So then he asks, what momentum are you creating for yourself and your world today? If you're ready to do so, just identify one thing that has your attention and choose to approach it with love rather than fear. Even doing so with just one choice begins to move the momentum of your life in the direction of true freedom. And the fourth essay, under the heading, The Present Moment as the Point of Power. That essay is titled, Becoming Comfortable with Uncertainty. And in my work over the past 51 years of doing therapy, nobody wants to hear about this. People want to spend the vast majority of their time, intelligence, money, and energy trying to create a sense of certainty. This was one of the themes in the support group last night. It was a powerful theme in the talks that we listened to from Guy Finley last night. He tells the story of the brand new world's greatest amusement park opening, and they had the world's most tall, fast spinning roller coaster ever. And a news reporter was there to cover the opening day. And on opening day, they let, dignitaries and reporters in, and as a promo thing. So this one reporter was standing in line and saw everybody being nervous and excited, but this one woman just cool as a cucumber. And as fate would have it, he and she were in the front car of the roller coaster in the front seat, and that's supposedly the most exciting, thrilling, scary seat, because how these things are set up. And he was observing her through the whole thing, and she stayed calm and cool and collected through the whole thing. When the ride was over, he could tell she was enjoying herself, but she wasn't exhibiting all of the terror and the fear and the screaming and the shaking that everybody else was. And so he approached her after and said, can you tell me what's going on here? You seem to be completely unaffected by this, the way everybody else was scared and nervous and anxious and agitated. And the bottom line was, she said, well, I guess it's okay to tell you, but the reason this ride doesn't hold any fear for me is because my father designed this ride. So I know it's safe. As a matter of fact, she said, my father designed the entire amusement park. So I know wherever I go and whatever I do here, I'm completely safe. So that's Guy Finley's story, trying to illustrate the same point. You can learn to become comfortable with uncertainty, because there's nothing that can truly chip, dent, rust, fade, or break your true nature in any way. Who you are, what you are, is consciousness, can't ever die, can't ever be truly hurt, and is only here to learn to extend love in more and more challenging circumstances. So Eckhart Tolle is quoted at the beginning of this essay that's titled Becoming Comfortable with Uncertainty. And Eckhart Tolle says, become at ease with the state of, quote, not knowing, close quotes. This takes you beyond mind, because the mind is always trying to conclude and interpret. The mind is afraid of not knowing. So, when you can be at ease with not knowing, you've already gone beyond the mind. A deeper knowing that is non-conceptual arises out of that state. Close quotes, Eckhart Tolle. And Christian writes, in its desperate striving for control, the ego hates uncertainty. Because we have fear and ego, we hate uncertainty. However, uncertainty that can occur within this veiled experience of this rigorous physical universe is actually taking place within the larger context of spirit, and that is built on the law of love. Therefore, even when great uncertainty arises, we need not fear it. We are always in love's care. Again, why didn't this woman get worried or nervous or scared on this high-speed spinning, flipping roller coaster? Because she knew her father had created it, and it's perfectly safe, and her father created the entire amusement park, and she knew all of that was safe. Christian writes, uncertainty is an opportunity. As it arises, it provides valuable counter-pressure that can allow a person to face and feel the real fear that is within them. There is no shame in feeling fear when our physical life or stability is threatened. Even acknowledging that we feel it and allowing it to rise and let ourselves feel it clearly, this is a step toward integrating it and healing it forever. While uncertainty may evoke the fear of lack of control, the perception of powerlessness, that perceived lack of control is actually an opportunity. Power lies in accepting powerlessness. When that acceptance is not just an idea, but a deep personal surrender, true power is regained. Now this seems to be doublespeak, so let's just slow down and read that little paragraph again. While uncertainty may evoke the fear of lack of control, or uncertainty may evoke the perception of powerlessness. Remember from the previous essays, they said you always have the power to choose the focus of your conscious awareness in each moment. You always have the power to change the momentum of your thought from the negative to the positive. You always have the option to choose for love over fear. And yet, with uncertainty, you might generate the perception that you're powerless, that you can't choose for love over fear. However, that perceived lack of control is actually an opportunity. Now, he just uses the word power in this essay. I would preface it with true power lies in accepting this powerlessness or this perception of powerlessness. And when that acceptance of that perception of powerlessness is not just an idea, but it is a deep personal surrender, that's when true power is regained. True power, your true power, lies in your accepting how you're not the one living your life. Life is living through you. Life is expressing through you. This is back to the 5 keys to the kingdom in the way of mastery. If you learn to align yourself to this energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through you in the first step of the 5 keys to the kingdom, and then the second step is you learn to undo the habit you have of getting distracted so you're able to focus your attention on that power of creation that wants to express through you uniquely in each moment. And then you learn to watch for the early warning signs of resistance or stress or tension when you judge that the way life is unfolding in, through, as, and around you is bad, and you release that stress or tension. You move into allowance. And as you do those first 3 things, the 4th key to the kingdom starts to flower. It starts to express, and that is this awareness. They use the word surrender. They call it surrender, but it is this understanding that I'm not the one driving the bus. I'm not the one who created me. I don't even know when I was created. Life is expressing through me. Spirit knows how to use my mind energy, my body, my words, my actions to bless others. That surrender to the flow of life, that asking to be shown, asking to be taught by life in each moment. That's what I hear him talking about here in this essay. Power lies in accepting that I'm not the one living my life. I'm not the one seeing through these eyes. Life is looking through me. Life is breathing me. Life is living and expressing through me. And when that acceptance is not just an idea, but a deep personal surrender, that's when true power is regained. Christian goes on the last 2 paragraphs here in this essay. The process of becoming comfortable with uncertainty may not be a swift one, and yet that's okay. Every step toward conquering fear is accomplishing real work. It can potentially take many moments, or even many lifetimes to face and heal our deeper fears. We need not be daunted by the scope, for there is immeasurable power in this present moment. What uncertainty it might be arising in this present moment for you? What might you have that you're uncertain about in this present moment? Whatever it is, just be here with it. Listen to your deepest heart and meet that uncertainty as truly as you can. Feel the fear. Don't buy into it. Don't pour your mind energy into it as though it's valid. Do not fear, because this is how the, quote, play, close quotes, on the earthly stage is arising in you at this time. Your inalienable power to choose has not been removed, and it never will be. In that moment, you can feel the fear and still make a choice for love. You can make the choice from love, from courage, from honesty, and allowance and acceptance and surrender, rather than resistance, rather than from fear. The circumstances do not have to land in a certain way for you to be free, or for you to be you. Spirit, capital S Spirit, is with you. Indeed, the very source of all things is with you right now. In that, truly, in that realization, what is there to fear? You're the extension of the creative energy in form. You remain intimately connected to that which gave rise to you, the power that gives rise to life itself, that is life expressing in the physical realm. With that as a deep realization, who would choose to pour their mind energy into thoughts that generate fear? So I'll take a breath and ask if somebody has a comment or a question, or if you want a list of the categories so that you could give me some feedback about what's the next category of essays or collection of essays you'd like to have us dip into. Again, we're reading from the book A Walk in the Physical by Christian Sundberg. And just so you might put it on your calendars, he's agreed to be an active participant in this first hour of Mind Shifters Radio on August 1st of this year. And we're in the second part of his book titled Essays. And in the beginning of that second part of the book, he has grouped the 166 essays into what he calls themes. I'm turning on the microphone for Susan Bingham. Are you there, Susan?
Hi, Dr. Tim. Does Christian Sundberg say anything about reaching critical mass? I know he stays very local, and that's a very good thing to do now. And of course, I've got a big goal here because I'm hoping in living this life as he's recommending that will heal our troubled planet. If that is, maybe that isn't even possible. We're walking in the.
But he's also said that you've missed it, and clearly you're looking for something. My guess is you're looking for some kind of a timeline, right? You're looking for some kind of reassurance that it's going to happen soon,
or it's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay, but he says all of this is about healing yourself, and I just finished in some of the readings saying it heals the planet, it heals everybody else. Here's one of the categories, the next category in line after the one that I just finished reading. It says change in consciousness precedes change in the world.
Mm.
And so rather than running out trying to get somebody else to stop what they're doing or do something differently, he recommends turn inside and choose for love within yourself. And so, my reading of your question is that you're looking for you have within you some sense of urgency that you're looking for someone to assuage or calm or say or do something to relieve it.
True.
Well, let me just read some of these categories here.
Okay.
The small stuff is the big stuff. The next category is challenge as a gift. The next one is life as feedback. The next one is negative emotions as guideposts. That's right at the core of the work that we teach and that Michael teaches. The next category is no enemies. Yeah, that didn't get a grunt from you. I didn't know what would. The next one is the answer is not in intellect.
Yeah.
So you want an intellectual explanation or reassurance that we're going to reach critical mass and it's all going to be okay. What you're missing when you ask a question like that is all the ways he's already talked in this book, and Way of Mastery says it, and Course in Miracles says it, that everything is just fine just the way it is. It's moving in the right direction for each of us to awaken, and that life is bringing us these things that seem like challenges and upsets and pains and things that we resist and fight against, not as punishment, but as an opportunity to grow, to get better and better at choosing love in more and more challenging circumstances.
And that's just what's happening. More and more challenging circumstances.
One of the things that really came home to me last night in the support group was we were listening to a Guy Finley DVD that has a copyright of 2012, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And you would think it was today.
Yeah.
And in his intro, he's talking about, so many people are so scared and there's so much challenging going on in the world. It's every year.
Yeah.
There's never a time when people aren't saying, oh boy.
And then we add, we think this is the worst of all. It's never been this bad.
This is the worst of all. That's right. That's right.
And I'm saying it. I'm saying it.
Yeah. And what they're trying to point out to you is the answer you're looking for is not in your intellect, which is trying to tell you that you have correctly assessed life and reached the conclusion that this is the worst life has ever been on this planet. That's not accurate. The next category here is truth beyond knowledge. And I recently listened to a mini talk by Bruce Lipton, who talked about his cellular biological research demonstrated to him beyond a shadow of a doubt that intelligence outside the cell, outside the body, was driving our experience of life.
Say that another way. I don't understand.
And so what the idea is, our intelligence is not rooted in our brain. Our intelligence is not, this is right in line with what Way of Mastery says when it says, your intellect has just been shoved full of trivialities by your culture, by your family, by your language. If you have somebody who was raised on a different continent, they've had different trivialities shoved into their intellect. If you have people who were raised in the 1940s, they had different trivialities shoved into their intellect. But teachings like this over and over again say it doesn't matter what your intellect is telling you about especially if it's generating fear or anger or hurt or sadness or grief or confusion. What matters is how good can you get at choosing for love in that moment, because
Mm.
the now present moment is where all the power is. Can I, in this moment, choose a loving response?
Mm. You know, personally in my own life, I feel as if this has been happening. I've been just finished a music project, and I'm back to doing my um, reviewing of old journals, to putting something together, maybe or maybe not, about a memoir. And I'm up to 2015 now. And the struggles I was having then, I feel as if in my immediate present life, it's never been better. And so I'm looking at the news and I'm thinking, for me, it's never been better, but what is going on out there? I haven't been able to bring those two worlds together, I guess, or something.
Okay. So let me just bring into this moment something that I've talked to people about for decades now. Right? I wish you could understand how ridiculous this sounds to me as I say it. I've been doing therapy for 51 years. It
Mm-hmm.
just sounds ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Little Timmy, right? Little, little awkward, overweight, not very good athletically, Timmy. All of a sudden, I wake up. I know, I was here the whole time. But all of a sudden, it seems like now I'm in the position of being an elder. Now I'm being
Mm-hmm.
looked at by people as somebody who's wise.
I know.
It's crazy.
It
It's
is.
just nuts, right?
Yeah.
And what I've been telling people for decades now is, please don't watch what they call the news. It's not the news. It's the worst of the worst. It's the most sensational. It's the most devastating. It's the most violent stuff from around the globe.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been telling people, if you could know everything that's happening in your hometown, all of the horrible stuff, all of the murders. I'm sure in every hometown there's murders. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure in every hometown there's sexual abuse and incest. If you could know all of it, all of the neutral stuff, the bland, everyday, drab stuff, and all of the wonderful, loving stuff, if you could know all of the stuff that's going on in your hometown, everybody who's done a loving act, everybody who's sacrificed something really, really important to them for the betterment of somebody else, everybody who's risked their life to save somebody else, if you could know all of that, you'd be filled with so much hope and joy, it isn't even funny. And that's accounting for the violence, the greed, the anger. But you don't get that when you watch the news. What you get when you watch the news is the worst of the worst of the worst. They're not talking about all the different podcasts. When you hear the news at night, you don't see there were 3,700 new podcasts launched talking about love or talking about way of mastery or talking. You don't hear that on the news.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear about people who routinely risk their life to save other people unless it's part of one of the most devastating fires and now all these other stuff that's over the top loss of life, etc., or it's ridiculously blamed on somebody who pulled a bonehead move, and so now we sensationalize it. So when you say you watch the news and you can't feel what's good in your life, but you look at your life and you say it's better than it's ever been, there's a really good reason for that. You're not crazy,
Mm-hmm.
because the news isn't the news. The news is the most violent, extreme, sensational, intended to generate fear, intended to generate anger, intended to generate people from that fear acting to turn on the news again, to follow the story, to find out how
That's
it
true.
went.
Mm-hmm.
The news is not there to help you live your life in a productive, constructive, loving way. Right? What the people who run the news programs, they're not going to have a job if everybody lives their life the way most of the people who attend the support groups live their lives. Most of the people who listen to Mind Shifters Radio or Michael and Jeannie live their lives. They're doing Mind Shifters Radio or other projects, or they're out in their garden, or they're playing with their. They're not sucking up the news. So they're the eyeballs that drive their money-making machine would dry up if people focused on the truth of what life is on this planet and how much better it is now in various ways than it was 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. So please, when you say I watch the news and I can't reconcile what I'm seeing on the news with how good my life seems to be. How many times have you seen your church and all the good that they've done for these refugees spread on your news? How often is that a national news story? Never. Instead, it's we fight over this. Instead, it's we want to blame people. Instead, we want to talk about how these human beings who have need are stealing our resources. That's what you'll hear on the news. Okay, so enough of that. Take a breath. We have some other categories I would like to read to you so you can decide if one jumps out at you to say, hey,
Okay.
let's read this one. The next category after the answer is not in the intellect. The next category is truth beyond knowledge. Mind-boggling. The next one is understanding forms pointing to forms. So we can get stuck in the loop of form and thinking that form is all there is. The next category is form versus formless. The next category is seeking non-physical answers while in the physical. The next category is freedom from belief. The next one is interpretation and belief appearing as characteristics of reality. The next one is intent as the fundamental movement or action of consciousness.
You did a lot on that intent one before, and I'm not sure it was Sundberg or somebody else you were reading, but that made a huge impression. But I'm going to go backwards and push a little bit. It seems as if what he is saying is ultimately it doesn't matter what happens here in this physical. We can blow ourselves physically to smithereens, and we're not going to lose our life, our consciousness. We're not going to lose love.
That's what all the great spiritual teachings say.
Yeah, and I forget that. I lose that. It would be okay. I'd love it to be okay if, like our voting rights are being, and all this stuff, everything's turning very bad. It looks from the present news, but it doesn't matter. And I'm making it matter globally.
You make it matter. You make it matter. Try to remember that you are on a little blue marble spinning around.
I know, and
as it floats through space, as it travels around the sun, as it's part of a galaxy of billions of suns, as that moves through space, part of billions of galaxies in this quadrant of space, and you are choosing fear.
Yep.
Or anger.
Totally true, Dr. Tim. Yep.
And think about it in terms of, I know probably everybody listening has heard this, how many times when they interview people on their deathbed do they hear the people say, gee, I wish I'd spent more time at work?
No, I know. Yep.
Or, gee, I wish I'd spent more time in anger.
Yeah.
Right? So even in this very localized, simplistic physical life, we can see people who reach a certain age look back and say, hey, don't sweat the little things. And by the way, they're all little things.
Yeah. Oh God, I was going to ask you to do a wake-up sheet, but I don't think I need it anymore. I have a friend who's a priest, long association, but not much recent contact, who contacted me and asked me if I would set a long Armenian litany to music. And I haven't been invited to do something like that by any external force. It's been from my own mind what attracts me. I said, well, let me have a look at it. It really was a beautiful assignment, and I've had a wonderful time doing it. But then I got to a certain point where I thought, I need a choir to sing through this. But I'm afraid to ask my own local church choir because I'm sort of invisible there as a composer. It's partly because it's a bunch of very young people and they're busy doing what they're doing, and I'm sort of off the radar, which this may be another wake-up sheet, but I think it's partly just age, that certain people just disappear off the radar screen after a while. I've heard women particularly say this, older women. And so I wrote back to him and I said, I think that's a great idea, but I'm not going to do that because I feel as if I'm imposing upon them, and I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be very well received. And he wrote back and said, I know just what you mean. I have had the same experience. Here's a guy 10 years younger than I am, but saying the same thing. And he says, I feel a certain kind of reticence about pushing myself. And so but it's been festering in my mind. I'm thinking, this is the oldest, dumbest issue. And I wrote to him and I said, I'm sick of this. I know I'm playing a game. This is why is this happening to me again scene. And he said, yeah, the story of the sower. You're just supposed to go out and throw out those seeds and let them land what they land and see what comes up. You won't know what's going to come up. You won't know, a lot of them won't come up. He said, let's just sow away, S-O-W, sow away. And I thought, there it is. I'm free again. It's like one word, and I'm back out in the field feeling good about stuff, whether this sticks or not. But anyway, that's just what you're saying in a way, in its own way. This is a specific example, but we just have to do what's in front of us and do it joyfully and don't think about anything in the way of returns or results or even being noticed.
There you go. And doing those things from the motivation or the intention that is the most loving you can generate
Mm-hmm.
in any moment. And then
Yeah.
this was something that some people were having a real hard time with on the support group recently, and not be attached to results.
Right.
Right? So, um, it speaks to what these tools and this work has generated in me over the years. You've heard me talk before about the people that ask me, so why do you do this? Why do you donate all that time to the support groups and the internet show for 14 plus years and 2 different support groups, prime evening hours for a therapist, 2 nights a week, minimum of 3 hours of time you're donating that you could be charging people for and making money, and you don't have any retirement funds yet, and you blah, blah, blah. And the answer is because it's what I'm called to do.
It's wonderful.
Right? Not because it's wonderful, but just because if I didn't do this and teach these tools on a regular basis, I wouldn't use these tools as much as I do.
Yeah.
If I didn't use these tools as much as I do, I would still have the kind of level of, I talk about how the amount of time I spend in the negative emotions these days is a tiny, tiny fraction compared to what it was before I actively started applying these tools on a regular basis. So why is that? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad? No, it's just a thing. And do I think other people should do what I'm doing? No, I think people should do whatever they're moved to do. And if
Mhm.
somebody wants to, I had somebody behind me driving on an afternoon the other day, road raging. A
Yeah.
great big pickup, road raging
Mhm.
behind me, flashing his lights at me, move on. I'm not on an expressway. I'm not
Mhm.
in the left lane of an expressway where I'm in my hometown driving from my office to my home,
Mhm.
and this person flashed their lights on me. It's okay. Let them flash their lights. I'm
Mhm.
not I'm not thinking they should change what they're doing,
Mhm.
and I didn't change what I was doing. And then they decided to pass me on the left in a passing lane, or not a
Mhm.
passing, in a turning lane,
Yeah.
where, if they hadn't had the luck of the moment, it could have been a rather intense situation with the car accident and,
Mhm.
bent metal and broken bodies, etc.
Yeah. All right.
That's okay. People are living their lives like that. I
Mm.
happen to know that's not the majority of people on the road.
Yeah.
And I choose to focus on the people who choose like me and say,
Mhm.
okay, bless your heart. I hope you get where you're going safely. I hope you're not in the middle of a family medical emergency that has you driving this way. And
Mm.
bless your heart.
Mm. That's good work, Dr. Tim. You're
Well,
applying the tools.
it's just what works better for me
Yeah.
than buying into some sense of righteous indignation or I know that I'm right and I have the right of way. None of that
Mm.
appeals to me because of the negative emotional states that it generates instantaneously within me.
Mm. Mm.
So, do I do that because I think I'm a better person than them? No, I just do it because I prefer how it feels in me.
Yeah.
And I prefer the uh, the kind you might call it the driving record that
Yeah.
I have, right? Like
Mhm.
the way it pans out. I tend to
Mm.
be both in my private practice and in my life. I tend to like to be results oriented.
Mm.
And if I find something that works, I tend to want to keep doing it. If I
Mm.
have something that I don't like the way it's working out, I want to be willing to try something else. It's number one on the list of 10 bottom line observations. If whatever I'm doing isn't working, I can feel free to try something else. So let's just take a breath together. And I would agree with you that if you're at ease with this, you don't really need to do a worksheet on it. You might be surprised at what comes up if you put your thoughts and your emotions on the worksheet
Yeah.
and cancel them and ask to be shown,
Mhm.
but it isn't a need anymore.
Mhm. No, you're right, and I could do that. Yeah. But I feel as if suddenly I have breathing room again. So something already gave way. And it seems like the ultimate excellent solution to not apply the fear stuff at all, because whatever happens is happening, and it's all ultimately, finally going to be okay. Suddenly your voice is completely broken up, Dr. Tim. Did you do something? I didn't do anything either. It's all broken up, but I could hear your sentence. Yeah. It's got that, it's stuttery. Okay. You do.